it's me Luthfia. In the previous video, we have learned about grammar test. So today we are going to discuss about pronunciation test. There are some types of pronunciation tests that can be used or applied in a classroom. Those include limited response, multiple choice, hearing identification, and reading aloud. We will discuss about the types of pronunciation tests one by one, but before that, we have to know what is the purpose of pronunciation test. So the purpose of pronunciation test is to evaluate students' production and identification of sounds, stress pattern, and intonation of English. Now let's move to the first type of pronunciation test. It's called limited response. The same as vocab and grammar test, limited response in pronunciation test is usually used by the teacher to test the students in the beginning levels. In pronunciation test, limited response can be done in two ways: individual testing or oral repetition, and group testing, hearing identification. What is the difference? So in individual testing, the student can simply listen and repeat. For example, the teacher will say this question, so the teacher can check final intonation on question, and the student have to repeat the sentence or the question that has been said by the teacher. On the other hand, in group testing or hearing identification, the teacher will give a list of sentences to the students. After that, the teacher will say two different sentences. The students are required to decide whether the two sentences different or not. For example, the teacher will say, John wants to buy a black sheep, and John wants to buy a black jeep. And the student should think or should decide whether the sentences that have been said by the teacher is the same or not. So that's the difference between individual testing and group testing. Limited response has some advantages and limitations. The advantages of limited response in oral repetition include these are very easy to prepare and this can test virtually all pronunciation features. The advantages of limited response in hearing identification include this combine pronunciation and meaning, and this enable the teacher to test students with rather limited language. On the other hand, the limitation of limited response in oral repetition include these are time-consuming when administered individually, and there is a need for a native speaker to model the sentence. And the limitation of limited response in hearing identification is there is a somewhat limited number of testing options. So that's all about a limited response in pronunciation test. Now we will move to the second type of pronunciation test. It is called multiple choice hearing identification. What does it mean? So in this test, the teacher makes the student listen to each sentence and choose the best paraphrase of what they heard. For example, the teacher will say, my dad broke a sheep 2 weeks ago. So the students are required to choose the best paraphrase of what has been said by the teacher. Is it related to vehicle, or is it related to animal, or is it related to ocean? What do you think? My dad broke a sheep weeks ago. You can drop your answer in the comment section below. Multiple choice hearing identification also has advantages and limitations. The advantage of multiple choice hearing identification is this is a helpful combination of pronunciation and meaning. On the other hand, the limitation of multiple choice hearing identification is it is difficult to prepare suitable distractors. Now we will move to the third type of pronunciation test, that is reading aloud. So one of the most common ways of checking pronunciation is to have students read something aloud. There are 3 points the teacher needs to consider in preparing the reading aloud item. The first is evaluate only 1 or 2 items per sentence. Students' progress in mastering specific sound, stress, and intonation can be tested more reliably if only 1 or 2 features are looked at per sentence. The second is using natural language. Tests should reflect the ability to communicate in more natural everyday language. The third, avoid signaling the point being tested. Reading aloud also has some advantages and limitations. The advantages of reading aloud in pronunciation tests include they are easy to prepare, they provide good control, they test almost all pronunciation features, and they can test how to pronounce spelling combination. On the other hand, the limitation of reading aloud include there are limited to those who can read. There is not a direct relationship between ability to read aloud and pronunciation in normal conversation. So that's all about pronunciation test. If you have comment or question, you can drop it in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Goodbye.